Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read to you guys a number, and I want you guys to think about what it means. 278,000. 278,000. Now, what does that number represent? What do you think it represents? That number represents the number of times the FBI conducted warrantless searches on the United States citizens just in 2021 alone. And this was all conducted using the FISA Act to spy on Americans. And this is an act that has been in place for 15 years. And those numbers were just from 2021 alone. And that's probably a low estimate. Those are just the ones that we know about specifically. Now, the House on April 11th, a couple days ago, voted not to renew FISA in Section 702 because it has been brutally abused by our intelligence agencies. Now, FISA 702 was supposed to be only used on foreign countries, foreign people, foreign individuals. But no, that's not what it's being used on. It allows our intelligence agencies to conduct these searches without warrants on foreign individuals. But our intelligence agencies, they don't just use it for foreign individuals. They also use it on American citizens. And that is the problem. They are abusing this time and time again. Just in 2021, 278,000. Now imagine, just think with me for a second. Imagine you have a girlfriend or a spouse or a boyfriend, and you found out some way or another that they lied to you, and they've been continuing to lie to you 278 times, or 278,000 times. So essentially, they can't be trusted, right? 278,000 times. Would you continue to trust that person? Even if they say, oh, listen, I'm going to change. I'm going to change. I promise you I'm going to change. What would you do? What would you do with this individual? Would you continue to trust them? Would you continue to have them in your life? Or would you say, you know what? I think I'm better off without you in my life. Is that what you would do? That's what I would do. But now they're coming back with this bill. They're adding some revisions because they really want to push this bill through. So they're trying to renew FISA. Now, one of these amendments is actually very important because this goes to the crux of the matter, these warrantless searches. One of these amendments is called the Biggs Amendment, and it prohibits warrantless searches on American citizens. And guess what? This amendment failed today. The vote was a tie. There were 128 Republicans and 84 Democrats who voted for the amendment. Until, guess what happened? Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, stepped in and voted against the amendment. So what does this mean? So just so I'm very clear, just so nobody gets confused over what I am saying here, this means Mike Johnson and 86 other Republicans voted that our intelligence agencies can continue spying on American citizens without a warrant. This is a tweet from Charlie Kirk. He says, breaking, Speaker Mike Johnson just inexcusably voted against the American people and his voters by casting the tie-breaking vote, 212 to 212, to defeat a FISA 702 amendment requiring a warrant to spy on Americans. This is how the Constitution dies. Brought to you by the House GOP. That's right. They're doing it right in your face. This is Mike Johnson. He's supposed to be the Republican GOP Speaker of the House savior. Oh, we loved him. We love this guy. What does he do? He shoves it in your face. He says, I don't care about you. You know what I care about? Expanding the power, keeping the machine chugging along. The intelligence machine chugging along, because that's all that matters. And look, here is Mike Johnson before the vote talking about his flip-flop and his reasons for changing his mind. Speaker Johnson, on his FISA flip-flop, he said, quote, when I was a member of the judiciary, I saw the abuses of the FBI, hundreds of thousands of abuses. And then I became speaker and got the confidential briefing to understand how important it is for national security. Oh, we're supposed to just trust them. He said, oh, listen, I heard all these things behind closed doors, and my mind just changed. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Mike Johnson. Well, I mean, who are we to question you? Who are we to question our government, who is so trustworthy and who always does the right thing? who allows our borders to be wide open, who are using tax dollars to make sure illegal immigrants are housed and fed and clothed, instead of closing our border and making sure that our country is safe. Oh, wait, who are we to question you? But this is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson talking about his reversal on supporting the FISA bill. Listen.
When I was a member of the judiciary, I saw the abuses of the FBI, the terrible abuses over and over and over, the hundreds of thousands of abuses. And then when I became speaker, I went to the SCIF and got the confidential briefing from sort of the other perspective on that to understand the necessity of Section 702 of FISA and how important it is for national security. And it gave me a different perspective. So I encourage all the members to go to the classified briefing and hear all that and see it so they can evaluate the situation for themselves. And I think some opinions have changed both ways, but that's part of the process. You got to be fully informed.
Have you been
So his perspective changed. I wonder what that process was. Oh, I just attended these classified hearings and I decided my perspective just magically changed. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and trust Mike Johnson on this one, right? But guys, let me show you what the Biggs Amendment did. Let me show you exactly what it did here. The Biggs Amendment prohibits warrantless searches of U.S. person communications in the FISA 702 database, with exceptions for imminent threats to life or bodily harm, consent searches, or known cybersecurity threat signatures. This is the amendment that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson voted against advancing with the renewal of FISA right here. And this is the amendment that spoke to the crux of what was going on in this disgusting, dirty stuff that is going on in our intelligence agencies. And they voted against putting any sort of safeguards for American citizens. But let's read a little bit more about this. This is outraging to me. I can't believe, once again, as Republicans, as Americans, we are stabbed in the back. But the House votes to renew FISA's spying tool after earlier Republican revolt. The House voted to renew a powerful surveillance program on Friday, 2 days after a band of 19 conservative privacy hawks revolted against Republican leadership and blocked the legislation on the floor when their demands were not met. The vote was 273 to 147 and was overwhelmingly bipartisan, with both Republicans and Democrats voting in favor of the legislation. Of those who supported the legislation, 126 were Republicans and 147 Democrats. It followed a dramatic vote to narrowly reject an amendment that would have required a warrant for surveillance in more situations. Earlier Friday, conservative rebels ended their blockade and allowed the bill to move forward after striking a deal with Speaker Mike Johnson and his team. Under the agreement, the reauthorization period of the spy powers, known as Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, would be cut to 2 years from the original proposed 5 years. Oh wow, what a compromise. So our intelligence agencies can only continue spying on us for 2 more years until they, bring this up again and they inevitably pass it again because your government hates you. That's exactly what's going on here. Well, we're going to compromise here. We're going to only be spying on the American people for another 2 years, and we can talk about this again. We can, reassess all of this again. Come on, guys. This happens. This just happens all the time. This is disgusting. But prior to passing the bill, the House voted 212 to 212 on bipartisan amendment proposed by a rare left-right coalition designed to rein in the government use of warrantless surveillance of U.S. persons. The tie vote meant the amendment failed. And in addition to Biggs, it was championed by Progressive Caucus Chair Jayapal, Nadler, Lofgren, and some others. Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan was also one of them. But the White House fought to kill the amendment, with Attorney General Merrick Garland and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan making calls to lawmakers on Friday morning, encouraging them to vote against it, said two sources familiar with the calls. In the end, 128 Republicans and 84 Democrats voted for the amendment. And yes, look at that. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson voted against it. Officials told lawmakers it would prohibit the government from accessing lawfully collected information already in its possession to identify and disrupt critical threats to the American people, according to the talking points one source provided to NBC News, which added that the measure would make the U.S. less safe. So making sure our Fourth Amendment is respected, that would ensure that the Americans, that the United States is less safe. This is what they think of the Constitution. They trample all over it. Nadler, in a rare clash with the Biden White House, called the FISA bill completely inadequate and said it does not represent real reform without the warrant requirement. After he spoke, Jayapal, the Progressive Caucus Chair, took to the floor Friday to dispute the intelligence community's arguments for the necessity of the current laws, calling the changes a needed balance between protecting security and civil liberties. She said Congress must end a backdoor search loophole that impedes the privacy rights of Americans. So this is a rare feat where America First Americans agree with the likes of Jayapal and Nadler. Jordan, in a moment of camaraderie with his usual foe, said he wants to thank the Democrats on his committee for working together to defend a fundamental principle. But Representative Mike Turner, the chair of the Intelligence Committee, sided with the White House and said passage of the amendment would mean the Communist Party in China, Hezbollah, and Hamas would get to fully recruit in the United States, as it would require a warrant for the government to access their communications. He said, this is what he said: "We would go blind," Turner said. "Our nation would be unsafe." Now, here is the problem with that argument. Here's the problem with that argument. If they want to use arguments like that, and if they want the American people to respect those arguments, they have to respect the American people. They have to get the trust of the American people. But the problem is they have violated that trust time and time and time and time again. And they use these things as justification. Well, I know we made all these mistakes. I know we violated your rights hundreds of thousands of times, but we have to keep the United States safe. Well, how about consequences for these peoples that violate the Constitution? How about that? And then when they violate our rights and they want to renew something like the FISA bill, they say, well, yeah, I know that your rights were violated, but please, you have to be safe. This is the balancing act that we have to do as American people. We got to understand, listen, we can't allow our government to get away with this type of thing. We can't do it anymore because they are abusing it, and they will continue to abuse it until we hold them accountable. Just like if I said earlier, what if you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a spouse? Hundreds of thousands of times you found, somehow you were able to collect that data. They lied to you straight to your face. Something that you had explicitly decided on, but behind your back, hundreds of thousands of times, they were going against it. You would say, I don't trust in you anymore. I don't trust that if we continue our life together, I don't trust that you won't abuse it anymore. So you know what? Bye-bye. My life is better off without you. That is the exact situation that is going on right here with this FISA bill and renewing the FISA bill without the amendment for prohibiting warrantless searches of American citizens. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about this? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.